We're live, Kane's Corner here on a beautiful Tuesday. We have a great show today here. We got some NFL drafts, we got some hockey, we got two great guests coming on later today on the show. Mike Bueti and Tommy Kane are going to be joining with the NFL draft. What a great weekend of drafting. A lot of teams I thought smashed it. We'll start with the New York teams did really well. The Giants and the Jets. I mean, Jets got Sauce Gardner, I think the best player. And then the Giants got Kayvon Thibodeau, who potentially can be the best player. So I thought those two teams smashed it. The Ravens, I love the Ravens draft. The Ravens went out and got the second best player, in my opinion. The second best player at 14? And they trade Hollywood Brown for a 25th pick, and they get Tyler Linderbaum. They even did pretty well in the day 2, day 3 drafting, but I thought the Ravens did fantastic. But I'm going to say the biggest steal of day 1 was the Eagles trading for A.J. Brown for a first-round pick and a fifth-round pick. And meanwhile, drafting Jordan Davis from Georgia in the first round. Jordan Davis, great defensive tackle. He's going to end up replacing Fletcher Cox in the Eagles defensive system. But, I mean, A.J. Brown is just that electric wide receiver that Howie Roseman can't draft. We saw Howie Roseman go out 2 years ago, Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Biggest L. So instead of drafting a wide receiver this year, like I thought they would with Jameson Williams, they trade for one and get A.J. Brown. I mean, I thought the Eagles, that was incredible for them. And what it really does is elevate their team. I think the Eagles, when they play in with the NFC East, that NFC East is wide open. And I think you have to put the Eagles on top of the Cowboys right now because what the Cowboys have done is nothing. Cowboys actually got worse in the offseason. They got rid of Amari Cooper to the Browns. They lost Randy Gregory. They released Lyle Collins. They've just been a team that has gotten worse. And when the Cowboys have gotten worse, it opened a lot up. I thought the Commanders could be in play. I wasn't a huge fan of their drafting though, so they'll be third because I don't think anything at Daniel Jones on his last year. But the Eagles, I mean, I have to put the Eagles. If I had to rank the NFL, NFC East, we're doing NFL playoff predictions later in the show. But if I had to rank the NFC East, it would, as of right now, it would be the Eagles, the Cowboys just under them slightly, and then a big drop to the Commanders and the Giants. So I think after that trade, because think about it. Their offense is now Jalen Hurts, who I've never believed in. Miles Sanders, who I think is a good running back, who just doesn't get the touches or the production that he should. Devontae Smith, who, by the way, is not going to have that much. Devontae Smith next year is going to have the biggest leap, in my opinion. He is a guy that you need to target in fantasy because his production is going to go up with A.J. Brown coming in, and everyone is going to be focused on A.J. Brown. If they're doubling anyone, it's going to be A.J. Brown, and that's going to let Devontae Smith open up. It's like Juju Smith-Schuster with the Antonio Brown situation. It's going to open up so much potential for him, and I think his production is going to increase a lot. But anyway, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, that are their main weapons for Jalen Hurts in year 3. I think the Eagles are going to win that division, at least as of right now, because it's not looking too promising for the Dallas Cowboys. But the draft went really well for a lot of teams, and I think that those teams are going to see that next season. I'm very interested to see what the AFC looks like in the playoffs, but man, what a great draft for the Eagles, and I think they definitely are atop of the NFC East right now. But we have our guests coming on. We're going to welcome back Mike Bueti on the show and welcome Tommy Kane for the first time. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to be back on the show. Had a fun time last time. Looking forward to this time around.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing great as well, and ready for the playoffs to start.
Oh yeah.
Same as me. So, Tommy, we're going to start with you. The Penguins have been without star goaltender Tristan Jarry since the 6-3 win over the Islanders on April 14th. Their record since then, 3-3, so they're at 500. Jarry is expected to be sidelined for at least games 1 and 2 in MSG. The Pens are up against a really good team in the New York Rangers with a fantastic goaltender, Igor Shesterkin, who has played really well this season. How do you think this series is going to go? I mean, how are the Penguins going to be able to get past Igor Shesterkin?
Well, I think they're going to have more than one line going through with Crosby, Gensel, Russ, Kyle has always been kind of that line to score in this stretch, and they've had a tough time getting secondary scoring. So I think rolling all four lines, maybe getting a guy like Jeff Carter involved, possibly even Kasperi Kapanen, who's had a very rough season. So I think it's going to come down to that. And Igor Shesterkin is definitely the best goalie right now, I think, in the NHL. He's got 34.1 goals saved above expected. And I think the way you're going to have to get by him is just get pucks in that, bodies in front of him. I think if you get one by him and start shaking up his confidence, that's how the Penguins are going to have to go about it. But I think that's what the Penguins are going to have to do if they're going to win. And a lot of shots are going to need to be put on the board.
And just to add on to that, I think the Penguins are like, I feel like the secondary scoring is absolutely key for them. Malkin Healy played about half the season, but put up, point per game pace throughout the whole season. So if they could get some secondary scoring behind that top line, which has been strong all season, that would be huge for them. And then on the defensive end, they're just gonna have to make up for the discrepancy in goaltending between Shesterkin and whoever is filling in for Tristan Jarry, because that's a huge level, and that needs to be made up by limiting chances from the New York Rangers, which they have an offense which has been more potent since some acquisitions at the trade deadline.
Yeah, despite that 3-3-1 record, when Jarry was out, I believe that's what it was. The Smith, who's been the primary backup, he's actually done a pretty good job with saving shots and just his play overall. He seems confident. So I think it is going to come down to how the defense handles it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shesterkin and Jarry were both my fantasy goalies. I actually went 23. I think it was 23-1, and I lost in the finals. So it is what it is. I mean, Jarry, Tommy, you think Jarry's going to be back game 3? If he's not back game 3, then what do you think is the breaking point of the Penguins? Or do you think they could just ride with the Smith and still win?
I think that's going to be something we're going to see in the first 2 games. In terms of this series, I think they could ride with the Smith. But also, you worry if Jarry's, still on the sidelines even throughout the series. You'd hope he would come back in one of the games because he's got to get some reps. But I think you're talking about, you're going to be playing teams that have higher powered offenses. I know the Rangers average, I think, about 3 goals a game. You got teams like the Panthers and Tampa Bay who average more than that. So I think having Jarry back eventually is going to be very important to the Penguins that they're going to run.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jarry last year struggle in the playoffs. Do you think when he comes back, do you think it would be something that we saw last year, similarly, a great regular season and a little struggle with the Islanders series last year in the playoffs? Or do you think he's a totally different player and much more experienced come this time around?
I think this year he's had an even better regular season than last year, and I think he's learned from the mistakes. So I have a lot of hope that he's going to come out and be a lot better than he was against the Islanders.
All right, Mike, let's go to some sunshine and rainbows in Miami with your Panthers. Historic 58 win season. I mean, Huberdeau is playing fantastic. They acquired Claude Giroux. They're a team that's looking to cap it off with a championship. Is this the year for the Panthers?
If it's not this year, well, I mean, what other year could it be? You know what I mean? This is by far the best year in Florida Panthers history. When they acquired Giroux, they went on a 13-1 run, highlighted by 13-game win streak. I mean, from top to bottom, they've had their ups and downs this season in terms of injuries and players coming in and out of the lineup and stuff like that. But they fought through all the adversity, and I think that's one of the things that I love about this team. That just no matter what position they are in the game, they always have the capability to come back and win. And they've shown it against the best of the best in the NHL. They've done it against the Hurricanes. They've done it against the Lightning. Almost put up 10 goals in one game against the Lightning. They've done it against the Bruins, the Maple Leafs, their own division rival, who they could probably face in the second round. I love this Florida Panthers team. I really do. If there's one, I guess, withholdings, I guess you could say, I have about this team is the back end, the defense. They do give up some really high quality opportunities sometimes, but I think they'll be able to overcome that in the playoffs. I think this team is not only built for the regular season, but built for the playoffs as well. They have speed, they have physicality, they have it all. And I think this is the year for the Panthers. I really do. I mean, I think they have the best odds of any team in the NHL. I should put it that way.
I mean, they're going up against the Capitals round one,
Mm-hmm.
a team with Ovechkin's hurt.
Yeah, I think he's gonna play though.
Yeah,
He's probably going to play.
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play. I think he's gonna tough it out. I wouldn't put too much stock into him not playing.
do you think they sweep or no?
I think they win in 5. I think they win in 5 against the Capitals. The Capitals have been a team that has really that has had a pretty good offense, but not that great of a defense. They've struggled on the goaltending side of the ice, constantly switching out Vitek Vanchek and oh my God, their other goalie. I forgot his name, but neither have been really able to grasp that starting spot. And I think with the Panthers' high-powered offense, scoring over 4 goals per game, and the thing that I don't think why teams are going to be able to stop them is that their goal scoring doesn't come from one line. Their goal scoring comes from lines 1 through 4, and even from their back end as well. Plus, you have Aaron Ekblad coming back as well for the playoffs, who missed like the last 20 plus games of the regular season, but is back on the ice practicing and is hopeful for game 1. Even if he misses the first round, the Panthers should still win that series pretty handedly. He'll be back for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, Ilya Samsonov. Is that it?
Samsonov. Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Just slipped my mind.
Like you alluded to, the Maple Leafs, the Lightning, they're two teams that are potentially going to play the Panthers if they win. I think that's a great matchup, and I think that might be the best series that we see in the first round. A lot of great ones, but that's one I think can go to game 7.
And then the Maple Leafs choke again.
All right, well, we're gonna get into this. The Maple Leafs, of course, with Auston Matthews, who is at a 60 goal season. And then you look over to the other side with the West, Connor McDavid, a guy who is incredibly talented, and a guy who Auston Matthews and Connor McDavid have accounted for 1 series win combined. And that was Connor McDavid in like 2017. So Toronto plays Tampa Bay. Edmonton plays Los Angeles. Is it time for McDavid or Matthews to see some playoff success here? Tommy, I'm going to start with you.
McDavid will beat. They're going to beat LA, I think. I really do think that Tampa Bay, though, is going to come out against the Maple Leafs. And one thing I'm really worried about the Maple Leafs and Auston Matthews really doesn't have an effect on it is how is Jack Campbell going to play? I've never been a huge fan of Jack Campbell's play. He's very inconsistent. It depends which Jack Campbell comes out, and I think Tampa Bay is just too good of a team to let that go to waste. But Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, I think those two are going to be able to get past the LA Kings. Not sure after that, but I would say that the West side is going to have some success, while Auston Matthews, I think, is going to be going home.
Mike?
I agree. I think Matthews is going home in 6 or 7. Just this Leafs team, once again, the same holes keep appearing year after year. And it's just the defense is not great. The offense, of course, is really good, but the defense never lives up to expectations. They're allowing over 3 goals per game, which is not good. And it's not like their offense is like the Panthers offense where like, you have bona fide goal scorers and playmakers. Lines 1 through 4, they really have Matthews, Marner, Michael Bunting, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys that can create some offense. And the rest of the guys are just role players trying to fill in those roles. I think that they lose round 1 against the Lightning. Lightning, super experienced team, still very talented. Regular season didn't necessarily live up to expectations, but I expected Lightning to get through round 1 against the Maple Leafs. And then in the West, I actually have the Kings beating the Oilers in 7 games. I just have this weird feeling that the Oilers aren't there yet. Their defense isn't as good as well. And we've seen McDavid and Draisaitl just get shut out in the playoffs before. And I don't think they enough has changed from last season to this season, except their opponent in the LA Kings. I think the LA Kings are a much worse matchup than a much better matchup for the Oilers than the Jets were last season. But I think that the Kings do pull out in 7 games, but the Kings won't, and the Lightning won't make it past round 2 in my predictions.
Yeah. Also with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl there, the 2 highest time on ice averages between forwards. So I mean, if you could shut those guys down, they're really a 2-line team. If you think about it, there's not much after that. So if the Kings can figure out how to shut those guys down, then I'd be very certain that the Kings would win that series.
And as always, goaltending plays a huge part. We saw last year with Carey Price the kind of level that he elevated to in the playoffs, that veteran presence that he has. I think you might be able to see some of the same from Jonathan Quick. He'd have to reach really far down in that well of skill that he has, but I wouldn't put it off the table.
Yeah, I got the Oilers. I got the Oilers. I think I had it in 5 or 6. I actually have the Lightning, or I have the Maple Leafs winning that one. I think I believe in Mitch Marner. I think is going to be an X factor here. He's kind of been a guy who, in recent playoffs, has been very quiet, and I think Mitch Marner is going to be an X factor. He's had a great season, and I don't know. I think it's time for Tampa Bay to take a seat. I think the time has come for them, but that's definitely going to be a great series. But might as well we just get into it. Get into the big question. Who is going to hoist the Stanley Cup? I want to run through your guys' brackets. So we'll start with we haven't talked about them much. The Colorado Avalanche. We'll start with there. I'm guessing you guys both have the Avalanche winning.
Yeah.
I don't. I have the Avalanche getting upset by the Wild in round 2. I think it's going to be a very close series, but I think Minnesota has this certain type of grit and grind that Colorado doesn't have. Obviously, Colorado is the favorite to make it out of the West easily, but I think the Wild are going to beat them. And even if the Wild don't beat them, I still think the Flames are going to be a very tough matchup. I think one of those 3 teams will end up making it to the finals out of the West, but I do have the Minnesota Wild making it to the finals.
Oh, I thought you meant round 1. I have Colorado winning round 1, but yeah, I have the Flames beating them in the conference finals.
All right, so
I thought he was talking who's going to win the West. My bad.
The Central. So the Central, you have I guess I'll break it up into that. The Central, you have the Wild, Mike.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the Pacific. I have the Avalanche too. Pacific, I have the Flames.
Yeah, Flames as well.
Yeah, I really like the Flames, how they've played in the last few weeks.
So now who's gonna win the West?
Honestly, at this point, I think it's going to be a toss up between the Flames and whoever comes out of the Central. I could easily see the Blues beating the Wild in 7 games in round 1, and then the Avalanche beating the Blues, or any combination of those teams. I think it's going to end up being the Central team over the Flames to the Stanley Cup, and that Central team, for me at least, is the Minnesota Wild. I love Kaprizov. I love what they do on the defensive end. They're a really well coached team. They know how their system works, and I think that correlates to playoff success.
Yeah. Calgary versus Colorado, two really good goaltenders, two really good teams in general. I have Calgary winning this, and that's a lot solely based on how Calgary's been playing compared to Colorado. Colorado, they've fallen off a little bit in the past few weeks of the end of the regular season, while Calgary has continued to play at a really high level.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case when it comes to the playoffs, but I think Calgary they got a lot of good superstars like Matt Kane, Johnny Gaudreau, can't forget him. He's having an absolute tear despite having, a rough past seasons. And then I like Jacob Markstrom. I mean, you can't go wrong with Jacob Markstrom. So, I think that's the reason why I got Calgary going to the Stanley Cup final.
I have Colorado over Calgary. Kale McCarr, the Nathan McKinnon. I love Colorado. I think this is the time they get it done. I'm believing in the teams that don't really get it done in previous years, and I actually have Colorado as my champion. I'll say that right now, but we'll go to the Atlantic. I got Florida.
Well, one thing I want to touch about, like, they haven't been playing well as of late. Only 4-5-1 in their last 10. And I think when we're talking about playoff hockey, how you're playing coming into it, plays a huge factor. Who knows if they'll be able to turn it up in the playoffs? But from what we've seen so far, they've just taken it down a notch or two. And with both the Wild and Blues and Flames in the fact of that matter coming in hot, it's going to be a tough sledding for Colorado. And I just think that Matthew Tkachuk, the quietest 100-point season I've ever seen in my whole life. It's going to be tough sledding for Colorado. They could do it, but I wouldn't bet on it. That's the last thing I have to say about Colorado.
Okay. The Atlantic, Mike, I think we all know.
Yeah, I have Florida. I want to go. You guys can talk about this. I have Florida, obviously.
Yeah, I'm taking Florida to get out of the Atlantic, and Mike really talked a lot about what makes Florida really good with their depth scoring, and and a lot of people like that, they really don't think that Sergei Bobrovsky is gonna have a good series, but I mean he's had a good season. He really has, despite a lot of people thinking he hasn't, because I think that's just the reputation that he has as a player. But Florida, if you look at it, they're averaging over 4 goals a game, which is the only team in the NHL doing that. And they're also averaging about a little less than 3 goals against. So, I mean, it just shows that the goaltending has been there for Florida, despite there's times where maybe it's not there, but it happens with every team. I would think overall, Florida's really got that padded down, I think, goaltending wise.
Yeah, I think Florida is the strongest team. I think everything that they've done this whole season has been really great, and they surely can win the Stanley Cup. Mike, I know that'd make you happy, but going down to maybe their competition with the Carolina Hurricanes and that Metropolitan Division, the best division. Of course, they have the Bruins who are in the Atlantic, but still, Metropolitan Division, probably the best division in hockey for the past couple of years. A lot of great teams, because I personally think the Hurricanes, the Rangers, the Penguins, and even the Bruins can make it out of this division. Tommy, I'm going to start with you. I know you have the Penguins moving on over the Rangers, but are they going to be stopped?
Yeah, I think Carolina is going to come out of this one. They've just shown they're another really good defensive team with good goaltending. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how Freddie Anderson is. Actually, they got Ranta playing game 1. I saw, but Ranta still is a pretty good goaltender. He's a good backup goaltender. He's always been with when he was on the Rangers and the Coyotes. So I just think Carolina, they're a very good defensive team. I think they're going to give Pittsburgh a tough time in terms of Pittsburgh scoring goals. And they also have, guys like Aho and Teravainen who can still score as well. They've looked pretty good all year. So I got to roll with Carolina.
Yeah, I believe that Ranta he's expected to play game 2, I think, too, or it might just be because I'm thinking about Jari too.
I mean,
I'm not sure. I think he is, though.
I think he probably will, but you might be jumping the gun on like confirming him. I feel like it's kind of like almost set in stone, because Freddie was ruled out so early for game one.
Mike, who do you have?
I had the Carolina Hurricanes, and if Freddie Anderson comes back in the series against Boston and he's fully healthy, I'll have the Hurricanes making it out of the Metropolitan. But if it's not for the Hurricanes, I think the Rangers are going to make it out. I think both of these goaltending injuries to Carolina and Pittsburgh could cost them their relative series. And with the Rangers really turning up since the trade deadline, Andrew Kopp, Frank Vetrano, both very, very big acquisitions to aid their goal scoring. Of course, they still have that, well-renowned defense with Adam Fox, Keandre Miller, and Igor Shesterkin in net, who's going to win the Vezina. If it's not for the Hurricanes, I think the Rangers come out because I just don't think Boston's offense is potent enough. And I don't think that Pittsburgh is going to get past New York without Tristan Jarry in net. DeSmith has played well this season, but I think just ultimately being at full strength, it's going to help the Rangers advance to the conference finals if Freddie Anderson is not healthy.
All right, so we have some great teams in there. We have some Colorado, some Florida, some Carolina, some Calgarys, you name it, some Minnesotas. But who's winning the Stanley Cup, boys? Mike, let's just start with you.
I mean, I have Florida. They're looking at it now, there's not a reason to not pick them. They're strong at almost pretty much every aspect of the ice. Their special teams has improved throughout the season. Obviously, they have one of the best offenses in recent memory, and their defense is just getting bolstered with Aaron Ekblad coming back into play. Ben Sherratt has been, maybe not like the best value trade for Florida, but he's come in and played some important, tough physical minutes for Florida. And Sergei Bobrovsky has played well all season. Bob has been huge over the past 2 months, in which they helped clinch the President's Trophy over Colorado and win 13 games in a row, franchise record for that. So Bob has played well, 6 goals against, .913 save percentage. And this is a goalie who has showed up big time in playoffs before. You know what I mean? Even though he hasn't been in the playoffs in a while, he showed up huge in past playoffs. And he definitely could this time around. If Bob doesn't play well, Spencer Knight just had the best month of his career this past month. So there are so many options for Florida. There's so much depth there that it's going to be very tough to pick against them in any sort of situation, especially considering how just dominant they've been against every single team this year, home and away.
Tommy.
I got Calgary over Florida, and while offense is very important, I believe that defense does win championships. Calgary is one of the teams that has allows the least amount of goals per game, which is just a testament to their defense and goaltending. We talked about Jacob Markstrom being very important for them, and I think it's going to be a very close series because I really do believe Florida is going to give a challenge. It might even go into 7. But I do think, that it's the Flames year, and look for somebody like Johnny Gaudreau or Matt Tkachuk, maybe even Elias Lindholm to get the MVP. But it's going to be very, very tough for both teams. It's going to be a very well played Stanley Cup final. I'm going to roll with the goaltending and defense. I think it's better for Calgary, and they do have the offense, maybe not as good as Florida's offense has been. But I'm going to roll with the Flames on this one.
I got Colorado over Florida. I think Nazem Kadri is coming back. He has an illness right now, so who knows if he'll be back for the beginning of the Predators series. And then Gabriel Landeskog also coming back. He's returning into I guess the regular jersey, you'd say, in practices. So I think by the time that those guys come back and they finally have the complete roster, I think Colorado is just going to not plow through, but make it through. It'll be a close series with Florida because I do believe that Florida is the best team, like you said, Mike. But I'm rolling with Colorado over Florida to end my bracket and hoist finally hoist the Stanley Cup. I think they have a lot of pressures on them, and I think that they're going to come through.
It honestly could be something similar to what we saw from Tampa Bay in the 2020 season, where they choked year after year after year, and after years of just trials and tribulations, they finally just are able to push through and win that Stanley Cup. But I think the only difference here is that Colorado hasn't even gone past the second round, while Tampa Bay, they were in Stanley Cups beforehand and Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see what happens. That's honestly the beauty about the NHL playoffs. There's so much parity, and nothing is better than playoff hockey.
Yeah, we saw the Montreal Canadiens make it to the Stanley Cup final last year. So,
Right.
well, guys, I have to end. Mike knows how I do this. I have to end on a different note. The NFL draft happened this past weekend, and Mike's Cowboys took a little seat back. Tommy's Eagles took a little jump. Who do you think wins the NFC East? I have the Eagles. I have the Eagles after that A.J. Brown addition. The Cowboys, I don't know if they're what was it? Was it the tackle from Chattanooga?
No, that was the Patriots. They took a guard from Chattanooga. The Cowboys took a tackle that they're going to play at left guard this season from Tulsa.
Still sticking with the Cowboys.
It's going to be tough, man. I mean, the Eagles, I hate to say it. I mean, not only did they get A.J. Brown, who's one of my favorite players in the NFL, and I think is just an absolute monster, but their draft was insane. I'm not like the biggest fan of Jordan Davis, but I know what he's capable of doing on a football field. I think the Eagles are going to, teach him well. He might not have the biggest impact year one, but I think in years to come, he will. And then in the second round, they got their center for the future, Matt Jurgens. In the third round, they steal Nakobe Dean. I think it's very close. I think it's very close between the Eagles and the Cowboys now. I'll give the Cowboys the slight edge now, just because of quarterback play. And I think that they did fill some of their holes adequately enough to beat out the Eagles. But of course, that could change, the more the offseason unfolds.
Yeah, I'm going with I'm going with the Eagles on this one. Before the draft, I would have said Dallas was going to be number one, Philadelphia was going to be number two. They both would go to the playoffs, but now I'm going to say Philadelphia number one with a 1-1 season series against each other. I think it's a lot of it though is contingent on if Jalen Hurts can find his passing game. Now he's got three really big weapons now: Goddard, Smith, and Brown. So, I mean, that's how it's going to go if Jalen Hurts gets better at throwing. And obviously Jalen Hurts could do a really good job on the ground. And, we'll have to see how, somebody like Miles Sanders, who was hurt a few times last year, ends up doing well, because run game is important, especially the Eagles offense. So we're going to have to see. But I think right now the Eagles are going to win the NFC East.
I'm going to be very interested with the addition of A.J. Brown, because towards the end of the season, the Eagles start to find themselves a little bit. They start to shift more towards that run game, that ground and pound type style. I'm going to be curious to see what happens with that, if they're going to go more pass heavy or if they're going to stick to that run game. To see, I really like the improvements I saw from Nick Sirianni last year, and I think he's just going to build upon that this season. I also like some of the additions they made in the offseason with Hassan Reddick and Kaiser White. Really the only hole for them right now is their secondary, but I think the rest of their team is strong enough. I think both these teams will make the playoffs. It's just a matter of who is going to win the NFC East.
Yeah. I really think no doubt these two teams are going to make the playoffs. I think way more talented than the Redskins the Commanders and the Giants. So, yeah, well, we'll have to see how they use A.J. Brown. I have a lot of faith in Nick Sirianni come year two. Year one, he showed a lot of improvement and got the Birds to the playoffs. So we'll just have to go from there.
Well, I got the Eagles at 4 and the Cowboys at 5. So it is going to be very close and potentially could be that week 18 decision there. Don't count out Carson and the Commanders, though. Guys, I appreciate you guys coming on. Talking some NHL. We got some great games on Monday night and throughout this whole week.
I can't wait for it.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for having
All
us
right.
on, Matt.
It was great to have Mike and Tommy on, talk a little NHL playoffs. Very excited for that. That actually starts on Monday, yesterday, and continues through the week. I mean, a lot of great teams. You really don't know who is going to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, you cross off some teams, but still, you don't really know who's going to win the Stanley Cup, which makes it much more intriguing. I like Colorado, but that's why I have winning at Colorado over Florida. But I'm really interested to see what happens there. I alluded to it before. After the draft, I usually like to do some playoff predictions, probably post-draft, preseason, mid-season, and then really get more in depth in the postseason. So, meanwhile, let's do it. While the draft is over, here are my way too early playoff predictions and how the draft has helped some teams' cases in these playoff predictions. We're going to start with the AFC. I have the Buffalo Bills finishing first, the Kansas City Chiefs behind them, the Colts, the Ravens, the Broncos, the Bengals, and the Chargers. Teams I think are just going to miss the cut. The Browns, I don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. So if Deshaun Watson is not suspended, plays a whole different role. But I'm going based off the fact I think he's going to be suspended for a year, or for not a year, a mid-season, probably like half the season, I would think. But we'd have to see there. And then other teams that just missed the cut, I would say the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have Kenny Pickett, but Mike Tomlin is going to play a role in that. So I think Mike Tomlin is going to, they still might get above 500 because of how great these teams are, but I think they would just miss the cut. Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans probably would be the other teams, and the Raiders too. The AFC is just so stacked. There's teams for the AFC. There's the Giants, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Texans are the three teams I know are not going to make the playoffs. The rest of them, everything is in play. So I like the Bills. That's an obvious. The Chiefs, Tyreek Hill it's tough, but they got Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They're definitely doing better than the Packers post getting rid of their best receiver. And they drafted a few guys in the draft. They even got undrafted Justin Ross on the team from Clemson. So I think the Chiefs are going to be fine, even though they're in that big division. The Colts, I mean, I'd like the Colts, especially now that the Titans got rid of A.J. Brown. Robert Woods is coming off an injury for the Titans. And Treylon Burks is not going to jump right in and do what A.J. Brown did. So I think the Colts, that's their division. I'm not even second guessing myself. And the reason why I have the Colts at 3, even though I think the Ravens are a better team, is because of the division. So I got the Colts at 3 with Matt Ryan in his first year, Jonathan Taylor, Frank Reich. I love that core. And then I got the Ravens at 4. Why I have the Ravens at 4 is because the Ravens are going to be the sneakiest team next year. The Ravens play the 4th worst teams in the AFC. So they're playing the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Broncos, which that's not really a worst team. So they're playing those teams, and they're pretty much in a 4th place schedule because of what they did last year. And think about last year. Lamar was hurt. Their defense was literally hurt, like their whole defense. J.K. Dobbins was hurt. They're going to get those guys back and healthy, and they're adding in a Kyle Hamilton, Ojabo from Michigan, who fell because of the Achilles injury, Linderbaum, who's going to be the best center, who's going to be not the best, their center for a decade now. They're adding those guys in. So I think the Ravens are going to have the biggest jump, much like the Bengals did last year, and get into that 4th spot. 5th, I have the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are my Super Bowl team. I'll say that right now. If I had to pick a Super Bowl team, it would be the Broncos. From the AFC, it would be the Broncos. They added Russell Wilson, who, I don't know if you guys know, but Russell Wilson is like a 4-time leap from Drew Lock. Shocker. They're adding him in. Nathaniel Hackett is a very high-praised coach, especially from a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So I love that connection. And then they just bolstered their defense up a little more too, getting Randy Gregory. I think they got the DJ Jones, I think his name is, could be wrong. Or is it DJ Clark? Something like that. They added him in to their defense. And they're a team that went 4-0 last year. So I think they're making a big jump here. And I think the Broncos are not going to win the division because it's going to take them a little while to get back up there. But I think they're going to be the 5th best team. And I think that they're going to be going to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady did it with the Buccaneers. Stafford did it with the Rams first year. Russell Wilson do it with the Broncos this year. The Bengals, they're the 6th team. I love the Bengals. Joe Burrow, who wouldn't? I just don't think they're going to win the division because they have that first place schedule. And when you're playing that first place schedule, I'm pretty sure they're playing the Cowboys. And then, of course, they're playing the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Titans. See, I only see them winning the Titans game, potentially the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to beat, and the Cowboys, but they're not going to beat the Bills. I'll tell you that. 7, I have the Chargers. I think it's time for Justin Herbert to be in the playoffs. Just missed the playoffs last year. Could have tied it, but Justin Herbert is going to make that leap. They added Zion Johnson in the draft. Going to add that offensive line of help because that's something that they really needed. And I think Justin Herbert is going to carry them to the playoffs because Justin Herbert is that top 5 guy. Don't let anyone else tell you, but Justin Herbert is that top 5 guy. I got quick sidebar. I got Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen, Herbert, Brady, top 5. Quick sidebar. Okay, back to the AFC, all in all, Broncos. NFC, we got the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, the Eagles, like I said before, the Cowboys at 5. The 6 would be the Vikings. And the 7, I have the 49ers. Just missing the cut. I have the Arizona Cardinals, and I'll tell you why. And I got the Washington Commanders-ish, New Orleans Saints-ish. There's not a lot of other strong teams in the NFC besides these really 8 teams. So the Rams, obvious. They just got better. Allen Robinson is an upgrade from Robert Woods. They still need some. I feel like they're going to sign OBJ back, but you never know. And then they even helped their defense getting Bobby Wagner, losing Von Miller, but getting Bobby Wagner. I think this team really just stayed still, and a team that's won the Super Bowl and stayed still. Bucks at 2. As long as Brady's playing for the Bucks, they're going to be 1, 2, 3. Just is what it is. 3 Packers. Their wide receiver troubles are going to hurt them, but I don't see it hurting them that much to lose the division or going into 4. 4, I got the Eagles because I think the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to be shooting out with the records wise, and it's who's going to win. And I think out of these top 4 teams, the Eagles are going to must have the weakest record. Cowboys 5. Like I said, they're going to be shooting out. It's going to be very close, and it's probably going to be a last game. Last game wins the division type of deal. Vikings at 6. I like the Vikings as a Packers fan. I'm kind of not scared, but kind of skeptical that they might win the division. Kevin, just the Vikings are always they always have a talented roster because they have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins, I think, is an underrated quarterback. And I just think with their addition at coach, was it Kevin O'Connell? He's a part of the McVay tree, and I think highly of that. And I think the Vikings are going to make a leap here. Mike Zimmer was just not a playoff coach, and that's all there was to it. And the 7, I have the 49ers. The reason why I have the 49ers over the Cardinals, I think they could flip-flop, but the thing about the Cardinals is the Cardinals are a one-hit wonder. They're the one-hit wonder of the league because I love their offense, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they didn't do anything with their defense, and they lost Chandler Jones. I think they're going to hurt on defense, and the 49ers and them are going to they're going to be going back and forth between this spot. But the reason why I have the 49ers is because the coach is better. Their defense is better. Their offense is worse, but I do think that Trey Lance can make it very close to have their offense be good. I'm betting on Kyle Shanahan to make the playoffs over. I'm betting on Kyle Shanahan to make the playoffs over the Arizona Cardinals, over Cliff Kingsbury. And that shouldn't be a hot take. That should not be a hot take that I'm taking the much better coach, probably a top 3 coach in the league, over a coach who really hasn't shown anything. A coach who has drafted Kyler Murray. And I don't even think Kyler Murray is that good. I mean, Kyler Murray, of course, is a dual threat guy. He could run with the ball. He could throw the ball. I don't think that as highly of as other people think of Kyler Murray, because at the end of the day, his playoff game was the biggest game of his career, and he played horrible. And that's all there is to it. I mean, the NFC, I think it's Rams, Broncos win it. That's my early Super Bowl prediction too. I don't know. I think I'll just say this: Rams, Broncos make it to the Super Bowl, and that's that. But what a great show today. Kane's Corner. I may be a little inactive in the next couple of days. I'll be going back to Syracuse, New York, and we're going to be having a whole different background. Hopefully get a microphone in, to have much better audio, and look out for more guests. Sal Saunders will be joining the show very shortly. I'm excited for that one. Maybe talk about some Bills, maybe talk about I have no clue, because you never know with that kid. But make sure you smash the subscribe button, follow along on the Instagram, posting a lot of content, a lot of tweets, a lot of Instagram posts. Yeah, join the journey of Kane's Corner, and we'll see you for next show.